Hey guys, welcome back to Detroit Garage. We're gonna make some hoses. I realized somebody commented on my video about my fuel lines and oil lines and whatnot, and I didn't realize that I hadn't put in the part of actually making the hoses. I did put in a section of taking the hoses apart, but I didn't put in the section of putting the hose in, or putting it back together for that matter. So that's what we'll do in this video. So we'll pull the hose apart. I've got a horde of these hoses, old Detroit hoses, and they have fittings that are replaceable on the hose. So let's take a hose apart. I'll choose this one here. Let's do this one, and then we'll put it up against a new fuel hose. All right. All right, so we'll grab an old hose. This one, these hoses should work. All right, and we'll make a new hose. So the fittings come off simply by unscrewing them. You'd obviously want to go and clean these fittings up or buy new fittings. All right, so this one here is all plugged up, but for this the sake of this video, I'll reuse it just to show you how these are made. Okay, so clockwise loosens the fittings off these outer fittings. All right. So same deal for this end. These do come in different sizes, obviously. You can pretty much custom make any hose. 1/4, 3/8, 1/2 inch, 3/4, any size you want. They come in multiple size fittings. So you see that hose is turning inside. Sometimes you might have a little difficulty getting them out, but for the most part, they're pretty straightforward. All right. So old hose, bin the old hose. There's the new hose. And again, you can clean these up in a parts washer or a wire wheel, whatnot, to make them look pretty. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to put them together for you. All right, so as you can see, counterclockwise to get this sleeve on, and you just bring the sleeve up until the rubber part is near the end. I don't know if you can see that, but you you bring it so that the rubber part is just touching the thread, just before the threaded section, all right? Then what I do is I take, of course, you take your fitting, preferably new fittings. If you do reuse your fittings, of course, clean them. And then use a lubricant, WD-40, Dawn dish detergent, oil, anything that's a lubricant, and use that. So I'm just going to use some old oil fuel mixture I have for the furnace. All right, so get it lubricated, push and turn to get it threaded. And then sometimes they're a bit of a bear to get going, but once you get them started, like this one, it's pretty easy, all right? So with the lubricant in there, they usually thread together really nicely. And just so they're snug, don't strip it out like that other one was. So there, that's it. Of course, you would clean your fittings, all right? This is just an extra piece of hose I had from the job I did. I ordered a little bit extra just in case, right? All right, so counterclockwise to put that sleeve on. There we go. You can see the rubber is right up against, coming up against those threads. Yeah, get your lubricant. My oil can broke, guys, so don't laugh too hard. I have to go get a new oil can. It didn't like the gasoline in the mix. All right, so again, just snug there. And that's one hose made. It's as simple as that. It doesn't take much time at all. Okay. One nice hose. So of course, if I wanted to use this hose, I'd have to clean the fittings. But for the purpose of this video, that is one hose. All right, for the larger hoses, they'll have the ratings. This one's 15 PSI. So for the larger hoses, and for all the hoses for that matter, they're going to have a maximum PSI rating on them. And they'll have the rated oil that's supposed to go in it. So this one says it's ATF, brake fluid. So that's adequate for fuel. So here's an oil hose. Again, essentially another hydraulic hose, 1,500 pounds burst pressure. Should I say 1,500 pounds operating pressure? The burst is probably 3,000 or something of that nature. But it's a good sturdy hose. I use this hose, again, it's rated for oil, and I used it on the Detroit. So these are the fittings similar to these that I use for my oil system on the Detroit. Both on the 453T and the 253 have the same system. This is the Orb system, and I have the JIC fittings on the Detroit. But it doesn't really matter, they all go in the same way. So so we, again, counterclockwise to put the sleeve on. So these are brand new fittings, sometimes a little easier with the new fittings. You don't have to spend time cleaning them and screwing around. All right, this one you can see clearly, a little clearer anyway. You can see in here, you see the rubber in there? Hopefully the camera picks that up. But that's basically where you want it. Bit of lubricant. So a little lubricant, get it started. So for the bigger fittings, they're 1 1/8 wrench to get these fittings started. Same idea. Just if you find that hose turning, like it's a lot of force to get the fitting put back together, take it off and release this and then put more lubricant in it. All right, and you'll find that'll fix your issue. See, now it's not turning. So again, even with the large hoses, just go until it's snugged up. You'll know. All right, so that's snugged up. There's no gap between the fittings here. All right. So there you go. That's another 1500 PSI fitting. So there you go, guys. That's another hose. I don't have the other fitting for here. It's on the Detroit, obviously, but so lots of different hose configurations and fittings, and so when I get more time, I should go up and take all my hoses apart, because these hoses are all rotten. They're all garbage. So, and then I got lots of hoses. So there you go, guys. That's 2 hoses made up, and that's how you make them. Simple. It's economical. It's convenient. I like it. So that's why. And on the 253, I used all old fittings. They were all good, so I reused them. Why not, you know? Yeah, so there you go, guys. The pressure on this hose is 2250. That's a fairly high rated hose. The reason they're blue is they're designed for a higher heat. That's what the fitting shop told me. So the blue hoses are designed for more heat, and the black hoses are just the standard fare. So for the feed lines, I put blue hoses on. you could see. These are new old stock I had from my 453T I reused. I just made new hoses from that hose. That's blue as well. So yeah, so that's how those hoses are made. I thought I had put that in the video, but I obviously didn't. Well, there you have it, guys. That's making hoses yourself. Yeah, and I'm sure you're familiar with the other method. You have to take your hose to the hose shop. And I've done hydraulic hoses on the forklift that way, where I've taken them in, and you know, they're 3,000-4,000 psi hoses, and I'm not so sure if these fittings are adequate. If you know more, let me know in the comments below. But I prefer the high pressure hoses like that to be made crimped in a shop with the crimper. But for normal hoses up to 1,000, 2,000 psi, I use these fittings. Make these hoses yourself. All right, so here's the other option. As I mentioned, you take your hose. This is like a 5,000 psi hose. So this is more like a 5,000 psi hose, probably. It's got heavy steel braided lining, very strong JIC fittings, but they're pressed on, right? So these are just swivel fittings. So this is what I'd have done at a hydraulic shop. Take it in and say, look, make me my hose. So, although these hoses are the same diameter, they're not the same pressure rating. All right, so there's a place for these hoses, and I choose to use those. Well, again, guys, thanks for checking in. That's making hoses. I like making my own, like I said, and that's how I do it. So I hope that was of some value to you. And again, thanks for checking in, and we'll catch you on the next video. Take care.